All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Akeem Darbo. I'm the Partnership Manager at Learning Genie. We're going to actually get started on this Educator Spotlight series on truly paperless family engagement. Learning Genie is a family engagement tool that is data-driven that allows for parents and teachers to easily engage on an app or web-based platform. Today, we have Bekki Parsons, who's going to be co-hosting with me and leading this webinar today, who is a home visitation coordinator for Northeast Kansas CAP. So I'm really excited to introduce her today and get started on the webinar. Perfect. So what is the Educator Spotlight? What is the series about? We're highlighting our super educators, Bekki Parsons being one of them. We're trying to share the best practices that we've seen these educators use to implement family engagement, increase family engagement at their agency. And this webinar series is one of many that we're going to be hosting at Learning Genie, and we're giving back to the community, showing you guys best practices to increase family engagement at your agency. Meet our featured educator, Bekki Parsons. I'm super excited to introduce you to Bekki Parsons today. I'm actually her account manager. I work very closely with her, and she's one of our most enthusiastic Learning Genie users. She's been able to implement Learning Genie really effectively throughout her organization, one of an expert in family engagement, and I'm super excited for her to start presenting on this truly paperless family engagement webinar today. So Bekki, go right ahead and you can start this.
All right. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it. And thanks everybody that took their time to come to our webinar. I know that that can be hard to fit in your schedule, so I do appreciate it. Today we're going to talk about what is going paperless. One definition of paperless is a paperless office is a work environment in which the use of paper is eliminated or greatly reduced. This is done by converting documents and other papers into a digital form. So all of these papers go into your computer to make you a digital environment. So it means more than technology, but with the use of technology, you're able to communicate with parents faster, more effectively, efficiently, and less cost is involved. So you can retrieve what poor Morris here is hanging on in his file cabinet. You can retrieve that from anywhere on your computer. All you really have to do is just log in. So we're going to go through and try to figure out how to get Morris separated from this file cabinet here. So our first question is, what is your role within your agency? We're going to do a quick poll to see what your role is. Just pick the one that best describes and is closely linked to your role in your agency. Awesome. Looks like we have a big percentage of family service staff, which is perfect because you guys work directly with the families. We have a teacher and some administrators and our IT people. That's awesome. That's good because everyone needs to get involved when going paperless. So that's exciting. And welcome. So what we're going to talk today is about how paperless preparedness and some things that you need to be prepared for, maybe some exceptions, creating backup plans to your paperless systems. Some benefits and struggles, you need to make a plan for arising needs, and then remembering data security. We always want to make sure you have security in place when going paperless. So why is going paperless important? It allows staff to be more efficient on meeting families' needs. If a family needs information on something, like when our home visitors are on a visit and the parents ask for a resource to say they need a list of childcare providers in the area, our staff are able to give that directly to parents because they can just turn their computer around and have the parents link into whatever system and figure that out. So it's almost like staff can send information and resources to parents almost instantaneously without having to go back to an office and find that information. It's right there with them. Parents are also, when you go paperless, they're reminded to be engaged more often in the program. Through Learning Genie, we post pictures in the classroom, pictures at socializations, pictures at family engagement. So the parents jump on and can really see, especially with the classroom pictures, they can see what their children are doing with those teachers daily. And so that gets them more engaged and involved into asking their kiddos more questions, which is what we like to see. The other part of this is that the communication is consistent, effective, and timely. All the parents are hearing the same message at the same time. It's not sending a paper home on the bus that gets lost. And so maybe 3 days later, a parent says, "Hey, I didn't get that little Johnny's mom said she got." And so it's consistent, and we know that parents are receiving it. Going paperless can also help your agency save money by saving on supplies. But one of our biggest things that we found is it can save staff time. We all know, especially working in the nonprofit world, that we ask staff to do more and more with less and less. And so this really did save us some time and was able to increase the time staff had to spend doing their jobs and collecting better data for us. And it also gives them more time to work with the families and engaging with them and moving towards their goals as well. So it not only is efficient and quality and lowers costs, but it also helps you monitor across your agency. We have a large area. So in Kansas, we cover 9 counties, which is a lot of miles. So it used to be everything was in a file cabinet that we had to go out and see. Now we truly can pull up a form of anybody's from anywhere, from any office, and know that those are being filled out and filled out correctly. So the monitoring system for us has gotten better. So quick poll, where do you feel like the implementation level of going paperless is in your agency? Oh, great. It looks like lots of you have started to implement, which is good. Several of you are getting started, and a couple don't know where to begin, and that's okay. That's what we're here to do, is work through some of that process and what works best and what doesn't. Even a couple have a good system and are implementing, so that's great too. So hopefully we can give you some suggestions and help you improve your system that you already have going, or maybe there's some great things that you can pick up from this as well. Okay, so this is kind of our journey and where NEKCAP started. Um, we had to, we wanted to go paperless. Everything in our agency was moving towards being cloud based. Everything in the technology world says it's cloud based. So we kind of had to jump on board with that and say, okay, what can we do to really make this happen and be more efficient and go paperless? So the first place we had to start with, which is, how do we have appropriate technology? Um, we How do you even think about moving from those file cabinets to files and being able to back that up? Well, there's this wonderful thing called the cloud, but the cloud, if the system doesn't work on the device you're using, it doesn't work. So we field tested several devices and found out what softwares within our programs would work best on what devices, what worked best in meeting the needs that we had. So we had to find the best technology that had compatible programming to work with all the different softwares in our agency. Um, We then had to figure out like what pieces can we start with. So our very first thing was we just started by taking them on home visits, and we entered our visits into our software to make sure we could do that on a home visit. But then also a benefit was we got parents to help us enter child observations into our software system where we record that, so that they were also learning to be child observers and they were engaging more with their kids. So we were having them help us move through this transition to becoming paperless, and we found that they could get engaged as well with this. So then we had to pick a piece of what position could we get started with. We went with our home visitors so that we could work out some of the bugs. They were a smaller group of staff, but they use the system the most often, and they use the different pieces of the system most often. So this is what we decided to go with, was our home visitors. We then had to analyze our forms, and did that form really need a signature? How could we get a signature? Did we need to convert to PDF? Was it best in Words? Did we need different formats? Were the forms available in electronic format already? And how could we easily get that to staff without them being able to edit it? So there were all these pieces that we had to look at and go, okay, we've got this piece, they're entering on visits, we're ready to go to the piece where we have forms and we need to sign. So how can we make that happen? And then the most important part was our training and support for staff, because we needed their buy-in to make this, to go paperless, be successful, but it also had to be manageable for them. We didn't want to put more on their plates. So, and they needed to see the value in it and how beneficial it could be and time saving. So it was very important to have a great IT team and create some, what I call mentorships, of those that you we all know everyone's at a different technological level. So some of those that are advanced with some of those that don't easily understand, those can team up and work together to figure out what best works in their office, especially when you're spread out across 9 counties. Those mentorships can be good. Um, we the small steps we took, we had to consider how the devices were handled. It made us think, how can we teach children appropriate boundaries with materials on home visits? How do we interact with the parents to get the information entered? So we had to engage our parents more, again, like I said, to have them start doing some observing and, hey, help us type on here. Maybe some parents really did enjoy typing, and so it was best for them to do some of that. So staff needed to be comfortable on the devices while still understanding that engaging parents was really our priority. And we are consistently listening to staff and their needs for what makes their system easy and what improvements can be made. So some challenges we faced, of course, it was technology. Technology itself is a challenge. It can be a challenge to find devices with all the capabilities to work with all the different software we needed. Forms can be hard. What is the easiest way to fill out the form? What happens when I hit this button and it all goes wonky? Um, so the forms themselves can be hard, but then the signature piece was probably one of the toughest things we faced as an agency. So we had to develop some forms to make the signature easy, but then also we really discussed and developed some policies and procedures of what expectations were for staff and what their system would look like, so that we know that we're getting that electronic signature at the time of service, and that is when it is happening. Until Learning Genie, we could not send mass communication out. It was all paper. We copied it. We hope that everybody gets the same email. You copy it at the same time, and it gets out to the parents at the same time. Now with Learning Genie, we can send those handouts out, and parents have continual access to that. So that has been a wonderful piece of us going paperless, that we know every parent has received it. Um, Training again can be very much a challenge, like I said, because everyone's at different levels. So it's hard to do group training because everyone had different questions. So we found smaller groups worked best for us. And then to develop that mentor system where I can ask my coworker to help me, and that's not going to be a big deal. And of course, there was staff resistant. They don't like to let go of their file cabinets, and it's really hard to think I'm putting that piece of paper into a cloud and hope that it's going to be there. And I really need that piece of paper to prove that I'm doing what I say I'm doing. So it can be hard, but we found direct communication of the expectation was important. And if we did offer them a paper method, they would choose the paper method. So it was important to be positive and excited and have staff make it willing to work, but to move in the paperless direction and not continue to give them the paper option. For us, it was really challenging. We were moving slowly because we were testing and just getting there. And so it was hard for staff to move to completely paperless because they didn't want to change, but also they didn't understand we were just doing paper and now we're not. What is paperless? What is not? And so we had a kind of a period of time there where it was hard for staff to understand, oh, I thought we were doing that paperless, but no, we're still doing paper. And so to everyone to be on that same page was somewhat of a challenge that we had. And so to get where we needed to be and be paperless was awesome. When we went completely paperless, people were excited because it was like, okay, we know what to do. We know we can't have paper. Some things that are really working well for us. The entire agency across multiple programs have access to our files and information. So in our agency at NEKCAP, we have Head Start, Early Head Start, we have housing programs, we have emergency services that we offer to people. But so not only does this help the staff, but the families that have to give us their same documentation for all those programs over and over, they don't have to do anymore. We can upload that to their file that we have in one of our software systems, and we can see that their ID is in there. So we don't need to get that again as long as it's not expired. So really going paperless gave that giving the agency all access to all the information helped the parents as well as the staff. We do have great communication across between the agency and the parents now. With Learning Genie, we can monitor some of that communication that staff and parents are having, but also as a manager, a health manager, or an early Head Start home visitation coordinator, I can send out information to parents as to that I come across that I think is important, and I know that the parents are receiving that. Also, it can be difficult to communicate with our parents their work schedule versus us being on home visits in the classroom, etc. So they can open that app and ask a question anytime they have available. It could be midnight and they're posing a question in there, and our staff can respond when they have the time to get into the app and respond. So communication has become easier than trying to catch someone on the phone at a certain time at that break time at this teacher planning time when I'm off work. So communication has become easier for us. Um, Learning Genie has done a great job at making in-kind paperless for us. And for the most part, our parents have really enjoyed that system. We collect all of our in-kind through Learning Genie now and upload the homework activities straight to Learning Genie. And we'll go over this more in a minute, but that's been good for us. Our forms and information can be accessed from anywhere. So I gave you an example of a form here. This is our family engagement, socialization, attendance form. And you can see on here down at the bottom, there's a little, please insert the Learning Genie event code. So, and I'll show you what that is, but you can insert that in there. This is all done. We just pull this form up at our events. The parents type in. They have the surveys for their survey link to for at the end of parent engagements and socializations that they can link to tell us how everything went. They check in there. Everything's done on a computer at that point. So that form can be accessed from anywhere at any of our sites. excuse me, we also create events now and get RSVP numbers, which we'll go over more in a minute as well. So this is what Learning Genie looks like, and this is one of the biggest selling points for us as an agency. We had a hard time with translating and having someone that can consistently translate our information for us. So now when a parent signs up for Learning Genie, they can choose what language they would like to have their messages in and their what I call their Learning Genie feed in. So they can choose Spanish. There are several languages they can choose from. And then when they respond to us, their message is automatically translated back in English so that we can read it. So this was a big selling point for us just because we didn't have a consistent system at the time. And this really helps us communicate better with our non-English speaking families. This is where we collect our in-kind, and this is what it looks like. So parents, staff are able to go in and assign homework or give families activities they can do with their children by putting it in their Learning Genie feed. That allows the parents to have access to that activity at all times, so they can always go back and look at those activities. But then they also go in and put this in right on from their phone. They enter how much time they spent doing that activity. It They sign right on their phone. It comes right back to us as staff, and our staff then approve it and sign it. And then the digital report, our in-kind manager is able to pull up and enter into the system where we really keep track of all of it. Learning Genie also keeps track of it for us, and we're able to see how much. Any manager can now look and see how much in-kind is being generated from each particular staff member. But as at this time, we have to enter it in a different system for our in-kind manager for the auditors. But truly, it has reduced. We don't print nearly the paper that we used to, and we are getting a good response from parents that they're like, "Oh, it's just easy to go into my phone and do that," and they really do enjoy doing that now. And we don't have those papers we're losing on the bus or in between pickup and drop off. That, oh yeah, that paper that got shoved in the book bag. I gotta figure out where that is so I can sign it and get it back to you. So in-kind collection has been important for us as well. This is where we can send the digital forms or files to families. So this is what it looks like. So like, for example, our orientation paperwork, our parent handbook was too big to just send in a regular message. So I send it out in batch notifications to every parent in the program so that I know that every parent has a parent handbook. We also send out our privacy information and our confidentiality policies so that our parents know that we really are keeping your information safe. So I send those policies out to parents as well. And it comes in and they have it then anywhere they can access their app, they have access to those files. So they can pull up their parent handbooks, they can pull up those privacy policies, confidentiality policies. They're able to pull those up wherever they are. So this is really important for us. Our health manager, say when the influenza, it's time to get your influenza vaccine, she can send out a message to all the parents and know that everyone has received it and has the information of that the influenza vaccine is important. This helps us this is where we create events for our socializations and family engagements. So each staff member that has a family engagement, our family service workers go in, or our um, home visitors, and they create their events for their family engagement and socializations. That event, then they invite their parents. Their parents respond to the event, and there's a comment box where they can RSVP how many people are coming. So now our staff know who is coming, how many people they intend on bringing. Once the parents responded to that event, it asked them to allow to put it on their calendar on their phone. So now it's on the parents' calendar on their phone, and then it automatically sends reminders. Our staff do not need to remember to send reminders. the Learning Genie app sends them a reminder automatically. They come to the event, they pull out their phone. We have a code that we've pulled up through Learning Genie, and they just scan that code, and now they're checked into our event. So over time, that gives us the data we need to see who's coming consistently, what classrooms are getting good attendance, what home visitors are getting good attendance. So it helps us really track the data as well. And it keeps the family reminded about the event without having to send those little papers home all the time. That can get lost fairly easy. Um, some things that are working well for us is parents are getting more engaged because they're able to see those pictures of what their children are doing in the classroom the same day. So if teachers post that classroom picture, parents can open that, and when their child gets home at night, they can ask them, "Oh, what's this about? What'd you guys do in the classroom today?" So that's really been great for us, and they're able to communicate with the teachers directly about their children's progress in the classroom. Staff also through Learning Genie can set up reminders to remind parents of important events or maybe appointments happening within or without the agency. It may be time to get that physical. And so we can set up a reminder to remind the parent through Learning Genie that, hey, it's time for you to go get your physical today. One of the things that we have found is that our data collection is easier and stronger. We can collect data on more things with Learning Genie's help and not spend staff time doing it. So that's been good for us. Again, I can't tell you, our monitoring has become wonderful. I put the example in here of our SharePoint, which is our how we make sure that our information is in one place for everyone to access. So this is our monitoring of staff. This is how we do it. We can go into their local folder and see what their forms look like. Make sure that their systems are good. I collect my socialization data. They put their socialization form plan in. I go into the folder, look at what their socialization plan is. I approve it or send back any corrections that need to be made. It goes to the next person for approval, and then purchase orders are purchased without those forms ever being printed. That is just a simple folder system that we each know our part and our piece in that and can get that done. There is also, with that monitoring, it makes the staff more accountable. It was hard because you used to have to go out and monitor files in a filing cabinet, and when you have 9 counties, that can be really hard to do. And so then by the time you get somewhere, you're like, oh, that form really isn't, we are not using that anymore, and it could be months before we figure that out. Now we really truly, they come to meetings, they bring their laptops, and they can pull up their forms, and we can discuss it right there and know how to fill it out. So that has been great for us. And truly, that continuity of services, we know these forms are being filled out with these parents. We can go in as supervisors and check and make sure when they're uploaded into our system that really it is being done correctly and that all the forms are being completed that needs to be. Also, school readiness is a big deal. So not only can we share our school readiness goals with the parents often through Learning Genie so that they know we have school readiness goals and we're working towards them, but also technology is moving forward, whether we like it or not. Technology is moving that way. And so having an app to communicate with parents is really what we've seen public schools start to use even at a very young age at elementary level. So we're teaching parents this already, to that there is an app that you will need to see how your child's doing in school, and truly an app is required to communicate with the teacher in most cases. It's just becoming an easier way that parents and teachers can connect due to scheduling and our crazy busy chaotic lifestyles. So we're helping parents move towards school readiness as well. We have our data-driven family engagement dashboard is here. This is an example of it. So this dashboard indicates how many families are engaging, the number of logins we have, our message chat statistics, There's video books, learning media. So how many parents have opened those? How many words they've read? How many people have attended our events, how much in kind have we collected. You can break this down by child, class, center. It goes to the very smallest level to your whole agency level. And really, we all have to tell a story through our data. So it's really important that we have some of this data to tell our story and show that we are reaching parents. So this is really important to us. As an agency, we set up some agency data driven awards so that we could say this is really what we expect of of staff and how we want to see you engaging your parents. One of them was an award through Learning Genie with our two-way communication. And so we've really seen that increase this year because our staff are then wanting to get that award and they're being competitive, and the in kind, they want to get that award of having some the most reading hours or whatever. And so they really are working towards and can see it on their own dashboards within Learning Genie as well. They can track themselves and see where they are so they have a good idea of how their goals are going. I just had back to this, I just had a staff member tell me yesterday that she challenged her caseload to get more in kind in January than they did in December. And she was using Learning Genie to look up the reports to see that if that happened or not. So she was just able to pull the report to see if that was happening without having to hand track all of that or contact someone else to see where that was. She could do it herself at her office and created her own goals for her own caseload and challenged her parents, which it sounded like they jumped on board and were having a great time. Some of our ongoing considerations we always have to think about. There could be areas where it's impossible to access Wi-Fi or even be connected to the internet um, at a certain times of day in certain areas. So it's important to download some hard copies to your hard drive that can be accessed without an internet connection. But it's also important that staff are prepared. In our agency, we do have hotspots. They can hotspot from their phone. They also have an actual hotspot. So if they know that none of that is going to get access in the area that they're doing their home visits or communicating with parents, it's really important that they have a system in place that downloads some of those forms so that they can access them without having to be connected to Wi-Fi. So that's one of those backup plans that is important to have. In some households, it may just technology may just be too much. You may walk in and think, "Oh my goodness, there's no way I can get my tablet or my laptop out, and this is going to work." So start small. Um, Start by having parents sign one form, a home visit agenda, and maybe move to a table when it's time to do some of those forms. This is an important time when you want to establish boundaries with your equipment and your technology. It's okay to say, this is Miss Becky's, and you are not allowed to touch it. It's important for parents to see that you're setting those boundaries as well, because I know the kiddos always want the parent's phone, and that's something important that the parents need. So it can be a good time, a learning experience to teach those boundaries as well. It's also to remember that families may not always have access to technology consistently. They may only be able to access Learning Genie when they have Wi Fi. They may not have internet connection at home. They may not have internet connection on their phones. So it's important to remember that they may not have consistent access. So, again, on an individual family basis, to have a backup plan, what really works best for that family. We say we want Learning Genie to be our main mode of communication. If that doesn't work, what will work for a family if it cannot be consistent? So we just have some backup plans with some individual families on that. It's also important to connect with your staff and check on their system. It's important that staff have a system. So if the form gets filled out but never gets uploaded to the right place to where managers can monitor it, it doesn't do any good. So, and every staff person is at a different technological level. So it's important that they make it to point B from point A. not necessarily how they get there, but it's important they get there. So if they can't get there, they get overwhelmed, and we really need to check in and connect with staff and say, okay, what really works for you? It's okay that Susie does it that way and Georgie does it this way, but John does it this way. What way works for you? Because when they get overwhelmed, it can go downhill quickly, and then you find staff slipping, as with paper, but definitely in a paperless system, we can monitor that a little more. And so we want to connect with staff and make sure that we're pushing forward and getting a system in place so they know where to go as well. I can't repeat enough, monitor, 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 because once those staff do get overwhelmed, it can get out of control for them. And we just want to move forward and make sure that we're having quality programs and that all of our requirements are being met. As an early Head Start program, we have a lot of requirements in Head Start program we have to meet. So to be able to monitor and say, yes, we are meeting all those is important. So to support staff and monitor them just to make sure that they are getting a good understanding of the paperless system and moving forward with it. And remember that we have wonderful IT people at NEKCAP that make sure that all of our software is secure and that we have good security in place ourselves. We have policies and procedures adapted around digital safety. So that is important to us. It's important to our clients that their information is safe. And of course, we want to make sure that everything has an adopted system that's compliant with state and federal security regulations. Learning Genie is compliant with all of those, as well as all the other softwares that we use within our agency. Um, one of the this is kind of our lessons learned are about paperless family engagement, parent engagement. Be excited. Let that enthusiasm spill over to your staff and parents. If you're excited, your staff will be, and if the staff are, the parents will be. So anything we're excited about, they will be excited about. And so that's important to let the enthusiasm spill over. Um, Going paperless can be exhausting, overwhelming, and frustrating, but there's always somewhere out there that can help. And so it's important to stay excited about it. Patience, patience, patience. Again, staff are at all different levels. And so trainings may have to be done a little differently for different groups of people. So just to be patient and that people will move, everyone changes at their own rate. So to be patient and respect that. Be direct again on your expectations. If you're clear, your staff will move towards your clear expectations. If you give them the option to use paper, they will. They will never go paperless. They're always going to say, I'm going to do the paper version, and you're never going to see progress towards being paperless. So be direct. Continue to be innovative and always willing to make your system better. Listen to your staff. They can come up with some great ways. They are working with those forms and in that digital format every day. So they have some great practices that you haven't experienced that is like, oh, that definitely works better. Let's use it. So being open minded and being innovative to always make your system better. Being prepared, again, knowing what technology works best in your area and with your software systems. Nothing is more frustrating. I can remember I was a pilot, one of the pilot staff, and I took a device out and my software system, I pulled it up. I was all excited. We're going to enter it in the system. My home visit right here. My office work is going to be done. And the system, I could see maybe I could have seen it with a magnifying glass because it wouldn't enlarge. So I was like, okay, never mind. I'm not doing that because I can't even read it to enter anything. So to make sure what works best, we'll keep the frustration levels low. And of course, don't give up. There's always a way to make it work. You just have to keep trying. There's always paper backup, but I recommend once you go paperless, that paper backup needs to be your very, very last resort. Are there any questions? Um, the question is, how long did it take to fully implement? It probably took us a year, to be honest, to fully implement. We really had to pilot the program with our home visitors and then work out all the bugs. um, our IT, we had to get some things in place with IT. So it probably really took a year to do that, but truly we did work out the bugs, and we were able then to get some family service workers in at a higher level, of course, than our home visitors, because we already had a lot in place. So probably a year. How long do you have parents submit their forms back to you? Or how do we have parents submit their forms back to you? Most of the time, our forms are done with the families in their homes on home visits. So it's just right there that they're signing our forms. Very rarely do we send it to them, have them sign and send back. We want to know that they're signing that. So that's something we do on site or in their homes. But with the in-kind, they do that in Learning Genie, and they submit that. They can submit it every day. So they submit that on a regular basis. So it just varies between forms. We did create forms on Microsoft and Google. I prefer Microsoft. Google was good for us, but we ran into some signature issues within Google. So Microsoft just happened to work better for us as an agency and what our staff was comfortable with. So for signature wise, Microsoft worked better for us. Ken, I'll let you answer what the cost is.
Okay, I'll be able to follow up with you guys on that, on the cost.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'll be able to do that. No worries.
And within the app, we go in and we can set up a reminder. So, for example, our home visitors go on home visits, and then right then they set up for their next week. So they can go into Learning Genie right then, and they pull up a reminder is what it is. And that's really truly what is called. And they can set it up for as many times as they want over the next week. They can set it up for an hour before the visit. They can set it up for the day before the visit. So they just set that up right then. And when they walk out, the app then just automatically reminds parents of whenever that reminder was set for. It automatically reminds them, and it sends them an email and a reminder right then that they are going to have that reminder. So we make sure parents are informed. I have heard of Child Plus. I have not been familiar with it recently. The parents can't. Learning Genie would be something that would complement Child Plus. It's not going to store all of your data you need, like your health components and some of those features that Child Plus has, but it can complement as a communication tool for your parents. We are currently working with Learning Genie it says do on-site volunteers use Learning Genie to sign in and out. We are currently working with Learning Genie on a way to get volunteers signed in and out if they are not a parent. So I know that has been something we have discussed in length, and that has been passed on to their development team. That's another thing I would say is that I truly probably am. He says I'm wonderful, but I'm probably they're like, oh my gosh, it's another email from Bekki, because I send suggestions on a regular basis of what I get from parents, the feedback I get from staff. But I will say that they consistently keep me informed of where those suggestions are headed. They are honest if that is something that is not going to work for them, or maybe there's a different way that we can make that happen, and they will tell me about that. So they really do listen and want to improve their product and make it as easy for us and parents to use as possible. So that has been really good for us. Over to you, Ken. It's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Bekki, for that great presentation on the truly paperless family engagement. The next steps for the attendees and the agencies that have been a part of this presentation is to review the recording. We'll be able to send you a recording of this webinar. Give us feedback. Like Bekki was saying, we're always open for feedback here at Learning Genie. We want to constantly be improving our product, making it useful for Head Start agencies as well as other agencies that are increasing family engagement. We're going to be sending a certificate of participation if you join this webinar today. And also tell us what professional development you'd like from Learning Genie. So we will be reaching out to you with a follow-up email with all the information that we just provided. And we really look forward to other webinars we're having in the future. We're actually having a webinar series, Parents as Partners, coming up on February 26th. And that is going to be the new Educator Spotlight that we're going to be hosting. So really look forward to that. We'll be giving you guys more information as the time goes on. Go to the next slide. And I really want to once again thank Bekki for her time and doing this webinar. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for participating.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'm going to be ending this webinar, and I'll be sending you that follow-up email.